Today is the day for a movie full of action and comedy where five longtime friends decide to gather once again for a journey that will shake the basketball courts. And check this out, the prize is a whopping $100,000. But here's the catch, my friends, these guys are in their old age, and to win, they'll have to overcome young athletes. Popcorn Session Channel presents Uncle Drew Recap. In the bustling Harlem of the 1960s, a true basketball legend emerged on the courts of Rucker Park, and his name was Uncle Drew. Even NBA legends acknowledge that this guy was the best of all time, leaving an indelible mark on the sport. They even say that the figure in the NBA logo is, in fact, Drew, but without his iconic black power hair. In 1968, Uncle Drew and his buddies clinched the highly coveted Rucker championship. However, from that moment on, things started to unravel for the team. That's because Drew had an affair with one of his teammates' wives shortly before a crucial final. This scandal rocked the team to the core, causing it to disband, and Drew's whereabouts remain a mystery to this day. Fast forward to the present day, Dex is the coach of a team that's about to compete in the Rucker Championship. Yes, the same one as Drew. He mentions that Casper is his Beyoncé because the young man is the team's star player. We can see that the other players have some amusing names like White Dante and Black Dante, Regular Jeff and Little Melvin. Then the rival coach arrives on the court and starts taunting Dex. They had played against each other in the past, and Mookie had come out victorious in the finals. Mookie proudly displays his tattoos, marking his 7 consecutive Rucker Championship wins. Moreover, he threatens to steal Casper for his team. The next day, Dex is haunted by a childhood nightmare. He used to live in an orphanage, watching other children getting adopted while his turn never came. One day, he saw Jordan playing on TV and fell in love with the sport, which led him to start playing basketball. After some years, Dex found himself in the Rucker final and just one shot away from victory, but Mookie blocked the shot, causing his team to lose. Everyone, including the team's mascot, blamed him, and it's something that still haunts him. Dex wakes up and has a conversation with his girlfriend. She tries to motivate him to beat Mookie this year, mentioning that she wants to buy a Tesla with the $100,000 prize money from the championship. Afterward, we see that Dex has a second job as a shoe salesman. Casper comes to the store and asks the coach to provide new Jordans for everyone on the team. Dex agrees, not wanting to lose his star player to Mookie, but his card gets declined. He asks his girlfriend to pay since she was shopping at the mall, and Jess only agrees because Dex promised her 50% of the championship prize money. The next day, the coach arrives at the court, proudly showing off the new jerseys he had made for the team. However, Mookie reveals that he's the new coach now and that Casper's name is now Sea-Dog. Dex is left in disbelief, having spent all his savings on the team. After this, we see that Dex appeared on SportsCenter in a hilarious video trying to take the Jordans off the feet of his former players. Jess sees this and learns that Dex has lost the team, and she adds this to the fact that he didn't help pay a bill. This makes her angry, leading her to kick him out of her apartment. After that, Dex starts visiting several basketball courts to try and find a new team, but he receives several rejections. Until one day, at one of these courts, an elderly man starts complaining that the current generation doesn't know how to play basketball. One of the guys on the court asks the old man if they should play with a peach basket, and for those who don't know, that's how basketball was originally played. The young man and the old guy decide to have a one-on-one match to settle which generation is better. At first, the old man seems to be falling behind, but it turns out he was just getting warmed up. He playfully bests the young man and wins the game with ease. After this, we discover that the elderly man is none other than Uncle Drew. Dex approaches him, explaining that they can team up to win this year's Rucker Championship by combining the new playing style with the old-school approach. However, Drew isn't initially enthusiastic, but he eventually agrees with the condition that he will be in charge of coaching and selecting the team instead of Dex. So, they both set out to find the other players who will participate in the championship. Drew turns on the van's heater, something that annoys Dex as it's summer. However, Drew argues that elderly people get colder easily. After a few hours on the road, Dex starts complaining about the old music Drew has put on, and the old man responds that modern music is lousy, not wanting that kind of sound in his van. He even mentions that Dex's rapper chains are fake and cost 50 cents each. So, the coach gives in and says he'll Google one of these old-school rappers, and Drew asks what Google is. As the sun rises, they arrive at a church, and Dex initially thought that pastor was just a nickname for one of the players, but it turns out the guy is an actual pastor. In a somewhat humorous scene, the pastor is baptizing a baby and tries to dunk the child in the water as if it were a basketball hoop. Dex starts complaining and prevents it, but he is forced to be baptized in place of the baby because Beth Lou complained about filling the baptismal pool for nothing. Afterward, Drew talks to the pastor and tells him that he's assembling the team again. However, the pastor's wife doesn't like the idea and says that he has obligations to the church. They start arguing using Bible verses. Dex tries to intervene, but Beth Lou calls him a hobbit. He retorts that there are no black hobbits. Drew returns to the van without his partner, but soon, the pastor joins them. Beth starts chasing them on the road like a maniac. They eventually stop at a red light and Beth gets out of her car with a baseball bat, but the three manage to escape before she can take a swing. After this excitement, the old men feel like taking a nap and pull over on the side of the road. However, Dex ruins their plan by waking them up. They hit the road again and encounter a group of elderly ladies crossing the street. Dex jokingly tells Drew that these ladies are his girlfriends. Soon, they arrive at a hospital in search of the third player, named Light. The receptionist informs them that he's at a playground across the street. At the playground, Light is shooting hoops on a basketball machine, but he's missing all his shots because he has poor eyesight. However, the lady watching over Light lies and tells them that he's making all his shots. Drew warmly embraces his old friend and mentions that they need to find Boots. The lady then reveals that she is Boots' granddaughter and leads the four of them to her grandfather, who is in a psychiatric hospital. In the psychiatric hospital, Boots is in a wheelchair and appears sad. But he brightens up as soon as he sees his old friends and demonstrates quick reflexes, catching the ball Drew passes to him. However, Dex starts to doubt the team's performance since one member has vision problems and the other can't walk. Maya warns that the doctors won't allow Boots to leave, so they all head back to the van to devise a plan to get the old man out. Dex even comes up with a strategy to distract the nurses, attaching a rope to the wheelchair to lower Boots down from the roof. However, Boots knocks on the van's door and reveals that he managed to escape on his own. They hit the road again and the coach asks why Boots is called Boots. Maya explains that the old man always wore the same pair of shoes when he was young, earning him the nickname. She also praises Dex for spending a lot of money on gasoline to help the old friends reunite. However, Dex doesn't mention the $100,000 he hopes to win as a prize. After that, they arrive at a dojo owned by the big fella who had his girlfriend stolen by Uncle Drew in the past. Drew decides to go in alone and takes a hit when he tries to greet the big guy. The others quickly enter and help Drew up from the ground. He explains that he's trying to assemble the team once more to compete in the Rucker. And folks, I don't know if you noticed, but the big fella is none other than Shaquille O'Neal. With this, Dex comments that the guy looks like Wolverine's dad. However, the big guy is not initially interested in joining the team. Still, the coach argues that the big fella can hit Drew as much as he wants, which convinces the guy to accept the offer. They return to the van, and Light is in the driver's seat, which doesn't make much sense since the guy has vision problems. Later on, they stop to refuel, but Dex's card gets declined. He notices a women's basketball team playing on the nearby court and decides to bet $100 with their coach to cover the gas expenses. The coach of the women's team accepts the bet as his players have already won 2 state championships and would only have to defeat a group of elderly men. The game begins and the young women steal the ball several times and score many baskets. Big fella even attempts to give a rough play to one of the ladies who was bodying him. Dex watches the game and is upset by the seniors' performance. However, Maya comments that the most important thing is that they are having fun. Then the coach calls for a timeout and tries to talk to the old men. Big fella starts doing a kung fu meditation and Light can't even see that the coach is right in front of him. Soon, the game resumes and the women win the match, so the guy has to pay the bet. Back on the road, Uncle Drew attempts to reconcile with Big Fella, but the guy puts on headphones and ignores him. Finally, they arrive at Rucker Park and the elderly men feel the nostalgia of stepping onto this court after so many years. Drew gives a gift to each team member. Light receives his old prescription glasses and he begins to see clearly again, making a basket. Drew returns the cross pendant that the pastor had given him to help in difficult moments. The pastor puts on the necklace and also makes a basket. Next, Uncle Drew gives Boots the sneakers he used to wear when playing basketball, which he had forgotten in the van years ago. Boots puts on the sneakers and manages to stand up, making a basket. His granddaughter is thrilled. Finally, it's Big Fella's turn and Drew gives him a statue of the first doubles tournament they played together. However, the guy shows that he hasn't forgiven Drew yet and smashes the statue. The next day, Dex goes to his ex-girlfriend's apartment to try to reconcile with her. He discovers that Mookie is now dating the girl. Dex mentions that he has a new team and retrieves the uniforms he had left there. Later, the Rucker Championship begins and Mookie's team wins the first game. After a few hours, it's time for the Harlem Buckets to play. The game begins and Drew and Big Fella start arguing in the middle of the match. Dex calls for a timeout and gives them a stern talk, which temporarily stops their bickering. The game continues with Drew making several baskets, deceiving the opponents with his dribbling skills and delivering multiple dunks. The score is 58-49, and Big Fella starts getting angry with Drew, who seems to be hogging the ball and not passing it. After a few more points, they start arguing again, this time about a girl. Big Fella says he married her, and Drew can't even remember the girl's name. Big Fella intentionally knocks the old man to the ground. Nonetheless, they end up winning the game. The next day, Big Fella is visiting his late wife's grave. Drew arrives there, and they start talking about what happened. The big guy expresses his love for Jennifer and his disbelief that Uncle Drew got involved with her before the finals in '68. Uncle Drew then reveals that he also loved the girl at the time but feels guilty to this day. If he could go back in time, he would change that. Finally, they understand each other and make amends. The game begins and Uncle Drew stops hogging the ball and starts passing it to Boots, who makes a beautiful basket. Next, Big Fella also delivers a spectacular dunk. Then Light sinks a three-point shot, showing that the glasses are helping him. After winning the game, they head to a club to celebrate. Big Fella and Uncle Drew find the way young people dance these days rather strange. A group of friends at the club starts teasing them for being elderly and in a nightclub. The old guys challenge the youngsters to a dance-off to show that despite their age, they can still groove. Lights and Boots display some cool moves followed by the pastor and Big Fella. Drew wraps up the performance and they end up beating the young folks in the dance competition. After the dance-off, Dex and Maya have a private conversation. He mentions that he's never had a family, but she responds that he has one now. There's a romantic tension between them and they almost kiss, but Dex backs out at the last moment. The next day, we see the Harlem Buckets in the semifinals and Dex notices that Mookie is wearing his clothes. Mookie explains that he's trying to imitate Dex because the only way to defeat his enemy is to become like him. The next game starts, and after some baskets, the score is 99-79 with only a few seconds left to go to the final. However, Big Fella falls ill and passes out on the court. Afterward, the big guy is hospitalized and Beth Lou arrives at the hospital. She and her husband make amends and Beth agrees to play in place of Big Fella so the team won't be shorthanded. Then, the moment of the big final arrives with Dex's team facing off against Mookie's team and the game begins. The pastor claims that Casper didn't tie his shoes to deceive him and steal the ball, but they still fall behind. Casper scores 4 points, but Uncle Drew later narrows the gap. Beth Lou also makes a fantastic basket, showing her basketball skills, while Mookie comments that you can even hear the old men's knees creaking. Then Casper starts scoring several consecutive baskets, giving Mookie's team a lead of 60-44. In the hospital, Big Fella wakes up and walks to the waiting room where he changes the TV channel in front of a woman who is watching a soap opera so he can watch the game. Back on the court, a dispute arises over a play and the pastor states that if there's no blood, it's not a foul. The tide begins to turn and the seniors make several baskets, catching up with Mookie's team on the scoreboard. The score becomes 70-77 in favor of the Harlem Buckets. In a showdown between generations, Drew manages to get past Casper's defense and scores. However, in another play, Lights and Casper get injured and have to leave the court. Dex and Mookie need to replace them, but Dex is feeling insecure and doesn't want to play again due to his childhood trauma. Uncle Drew offers him valuable advice, saying that he will regret it when he gets older if he doesn't make the right decision now. Everyone returns to the court and Jess enters to embarrass Dex, but Maya protects him and removes her from the game. The match resumes with only a few seconds left. One basket will give the victory to the Harlem Buckets. Next, the coach steals the ball and Mookie starts to defend him, but the coach calls for a timeout as he is afraid of a repeat of his childhood trauma. Dex devises a tactic that doesn't require him to take the final shot, but the others encourage him to do so because he won't overcome his past if he doesn't. The game continues and Dex manages to dribble past Mookie and make the winning basket. They celebrate and Dex climbs one of the bleacher steps to kiss Maya. Afterward, he congratulates Mookie, who seems to have accepted the defeat well. Drew decides to share the entire prize money with the elderly players who have become his family. Finally, they visit Big Fella in the hospital and he's recovering well. They even appear on SportsCenter as the winning team of the Rucker.